hit the subscribe button and the notification bell right now so you never miss an episode of Operation Truth. Send us an email, ask your questions, and very possibly we'll address your question on the air.
Operation Truth, the show they don't want you to see. Now, here's your host, Lou.
This is Lou Palumbo, and I just want to set this straight so you guys understand exactly what I'm dealing with. My co-host right now is on a cruise. He's going to join us, but I want you to understand I'm bearing the load of this. He's out there surfing on the back of this gigantic cruise boat. I know exactly what you're doing, Tom. Don't try to hide. I'm going to send a drone over and figure out every one of your moves, which is what we're capable of doing today.
We'll do that. You'll see that I'm in a foggy cloud in the Boston Harbor right now.
A likely story is what I say, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
Just another alibi. In
Google
any case, I'm going to Google you. I'm going to iCloud you. I'll do whatever that technology allows me to do. As always, I would like to mention something going on with immigration in the country today. And part of the reason I keep bringing this up is because I feel maybe in time, if we say it enough times, it'll sink in, ladies and gentlemen. Please go back and take a look at some of my prior podcasts and even radio station discussions on WBAB. I brought this topic up over 2 years ago when this opening of the floodgate occurred, and I warned everyone what this would translate to. And I want to put this in perspective. It's now resonating in cities like New York and Chicago, LA, cities on the southern border of Arizona, Rio Grande City. We just listened to a gentleman by the name of Joel Villarreal, who's their mayor, commenting about Joe Biden is a liar. Not my words, his words. And please let us be clear about something else. Any observations or constructive criticisms that you hear us make, we would make if these were Republicans. They just happen to be Democrats, which begs another question. What happened to this political entity? In any case, they had some of the community members in Chicago, minorities, up in arms and very vocal about the fact that they're in creating accommodations for the migrants and taking what little they have for them away from them. These are their words, guys. Just, you can Google all this. This is nothing you cannot find. In relationship to the border, this is going to be the defining moment for this country. If you think that this is only going to impact cities like New York or Chicago or LA or some of these bordering cities, El Paso, Eagle Pass, all this, you're absolutely wrong. This problem is going to resonate through the country. And as Tom will collaborate, I'm going to give him an opportunity to speak to this. We have no vetting process in place, no matter what lies they want to tell you. This country is becoming the big lie. You know, I'm going to provide something for you also from a quote from Alejandro Mayorkas, which is really quite telling. We can't even get the lies straight. I would like you to bear with me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen, because I made a point of moving this into my phone. Bear with me. Okay. And to further this cause, I'm going to have to put my damn glasses on, so just indulge me. And this was through a number of course, I can't open it right now. Anyway, he spoke to the immediate need, the grave and immediate need at the border. And then he walked it back. We don't believe it's going to work. So why are you violating 26 federal laws to impose a new policy that isn't going to work? I see. Back in 2019, under the Trump administration, they passed some form of legislation that mandated this 20 miles of wall. Let me educate you as to something in case you don't know this. There are 1,951 miles of border along the Mexico border with the United States. 1,254 belong to Texas. The rest you can divide up through 3 other states, Arizona, New Mexico, and California. So all of a sudden, out of the blue, we're concerned about any type of law that was enacted or legislated in 2019 when you've clearly demonstrated from the time you got into office, you've ignored any law, any presidential order that he put into place, you countermanded. Interestingly enough, the loudest voice today in opposition to the migration issue are Democrats, because what we're finding out, ladies and gentlemen, is The destinations for many people who are illegal in the country are to major cities, number one being the number one destination. Something else you might find interesting, which will explain to you why Karen Bass is so concerned about migrants coming to LA now. 28% of the homeless are positioned in California. She has probably 70,000 plus people homeless living on the streets right now, which outdoes New York by a yardstick. I don't think she needs to add to this. I say this rather tongue-in-cheek because it's not funny. The cities are getting hit from two fronts now. First, the Democrats decided to legislate to where what we have, what they call bail reform or cashless bail, which basically allows the criminal element to operate with impunity. The second problem we have now is the fact that being overrun with illegal immigrants, that they cannot control the flow into their cities. I think the numbers that are coming into Chicago are staggering. New York, I'm hearing as many as 800 a day. Guys, do your math. Whether it's 400 a day, 500 a day, 800 a day, do the math. Adams is in Mexico City right now, as if he has some position in foreign policy. I guess he's on vacation, and I don't mean to be critical of him, but I'm just concerned as to what this is really about. You did go to the border. Maybe you should send some more film footage from the border to Washington, or maybe you should send some of the migrants to Washington. I'm surprised why some of these major city leaders, like Eric Adams, haven't busted them up and dropped them in Washington, D.C. Let that municipality handle them for a while. Give them 125,000. That would create an immediate impact on their thinking. Although, interestingly enough, nothing seems to waver this foreign policy that's destroying your country. We listened to Eric Adams say it's destroying the city of New York. If you are so naive to believe that's where it's going to stop, you're going to reap what you sow in this regard. You know, Tom, I want to talk about something in Washington, D.C. real quick. It has to do with the crime stats. Carjackings are up 106%. Robberies are up 68%. Homicides are up 38%. And overall violent crime, variety of nature, is up 39%. Tom, how do we get there? And most importantly, what's the road back?
Well, first, Lou, the crime rate rise in Washington, D.C. has been every year since the Biden administration took over. You know, this isn't just this year's numbers. Oh, all of a sudden it went up. How come? It started almost immediately, with the Biden administration. And then not just in Washington, but in all the major cities, having to do with the lack of prosecutions, the lack of keeping people in jail, lack of keeping violent offenders off the street and not putting them back on so that they can go after other people. And that's the main problem in these cities, is you have the same criminals getting arrested 10, 20, 30 times. One time should be enough for a couple of years in prison, considering the violence involved in some of these acts. But 2, 3, 4 times, that should be a life sentence.
You know, Tom, interestingly enough, and your point is well taken and intelligently spoken to as usual. The other problem attached to this, Tom, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that law enforcement is checked out. You've completely demotivated the law enforcement community from doing their jobs. You threaten their pensions every chance you get, right, wrong, or indifferent. We predetermine their guilt, as we did in Ferguson. You know, I guess this whole concept of due process, we're not entertaining it anymore. You talk about defunding them. Let me make it really simple for everyone in case you're listening to this, because this is the truth. We don't have enough people that want to be law enforcement agents today to worry about defunding their budget. Try to hang with me, ladies and gentlemen. This is your country. It's incumbent upon you to rechart the future of your children. All these topics, no matter where I bounce, and I'm going to bounce all over the place like a single subject legislation that this kid Matt Gaetz is hot on. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But no matter where I take you in this conversation, please understand one thing, two things actually. First, I would be saying it regardless if it was a Republican or a Democratic agenda. I don't care about them. We shouldn't be addressing issues in this country based on Democrats or Republicans. They should be addressed based on what's in the best interest of this nation, its future, and our young people, our children. And that's the second point. Everything I talk about is going to circle back to this big ball that's going to impact our children. Excuse me. I want to touch on this thing with Jamal Bowman. I've not heard another word about this issue with Jamal Bowman, who intentionally pulled a fire alarm to disrupt a legislative hearing. You're up everybody's back about January 6th. I got it. I got it. Should not disrupt or impact the operation of the government through any means other than peaceful. I've not heard another word about that. Tom, I want to ask you, have you heard anything further about Jamal Bowman?
No, absolutely not. Complete double standard. So he could do it. Anybody else that does it, there, even people on the Capitol grounds that didn't even enter the Capitol and directly obstruct anything are getting 20 years in prison. So this is unbelievable that there's nothing done to him or about the issue or any more said about it. You're absolutely right.
You know, and the other interesting part about this discussion is that with all the cameras and technology that surrounds these buildings in Washington, whether it's the Capitol, the Supreme Court building, the White House, the Rayburn building, all of which I brushed up against at some point in time, they know where everybody's going and what everybody's doing at any given moment.
The change from currency systems to fully digital cashless societies has intensified fear around the world. In mid-September, Wells Fargo and Truist banks planned major layoffs as an impending 2024 recession has been predicted by many economists. Many analysts are predicting silver will hit an all-time high in 2024. That's why you need to own silver as a hedge. Green energy demand will possibly turbocharge silver prices to 50, 100, even 300 an ounce, according to many experts around the world. Silver is a proven hedge against inflation. Since 1971, silver has returned over 11% when averaged yearly. Hard Asset Management is a trusted leader in precious metals and rare coins for nearly 40 years. We have the guaranteed lowest prices, fast and easy ordering, expedited shipping, with award-winning customer service available 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. CST, Monday through Friday. So protect yourself from the chaos. Invest in stability with Hard Asset Management. Call now and get your free Hard Asset Management information kit on how easy it is for you to own silver. 844-426-4653. Free delivery and extra silver with every $10,000 bought. Use promo code 007.
And this excuse that was propped up that his underwear were in a bunch because he was missing a vote, and you thought by pulling a fire alarm that would open up a door. No, that calls the fire department. And being that you were a principal in a school, I would think you would have known that. I don't like these contentious discussions that we're having. Tragically, I would say, degrade ourselves into them because we have people that are just bull-faced lying to you. I keep telling you guys every week, we're lying to you about the borders. Now it's starting to resonate. We're lying to you about this problem in our major cities with the criminal element acting with impunity. We lied to you about the energy sector, our ability to transition into electricity. We shut down the Keystone Pipeline. We're lying to you about the economy. We're telling you the inflation rate's 4%. Do me a favor. Go buy a 2x4, a piece of sheetrock, or a dozen eggs, and tell me they've only gone up 4%. Look at your gasoline. Look at your foreign policies. Where's the honor, the integrity, and the truthfulness that is supposed to be at the roots of the foundation of this government? That is something that we want to teach our children to have. Honesty, integrity, and truthfulness. The big people are putting on a really bad show for them, which lends itself again to the discussions I have about Generation X and Generation Z, which we are very quick to rhetorically throw under the bus and brand them and label them and how they're wandering, they have no purpose, and they just want everything handed to them. We launched them in a world with nothing to believe in, guys. Our institutions are problematic. Religion, matrimony, government. You've attacked our law enforcement community, be it the FBI or local law enforcement. You're now using our judicial system to carry out an agenda against the former president. I don't have a problem, nor does Tom or anybody involved in this podcast, with prosecuting Donald Trump if it's proper. I just want to know what happened with Hillary Clinton when she was under subpoena to surrender her emails that she acid washed 33,000. And in addition to that, damaged all these little communication devices I'm holding up, intentionally destroyed them. Tom, care to chime in on that?
No, that's absolutely correct. She violated a subpoena. She was ordered to turn in all of those documents. And the way the government knew that she had the documents was from the receivers of her emails on the other end, or the senders to her, because she wasn't going to do it. That's why she wanted a private server, so she would not have to disclose any business she did, whether it was government or Clinton Foundation or both, on the same device. She didn't want any record of it. So the record that Congress had to go after was, and the FBI was, that other people were sending in their end of the communication. So now Congress subpoenas 33,000 emails. She immediately destroys them. and then there's no other record. That's why the government is required, or employees of the government are required, that any communication that they do in official business has to be in the government records. It has to be obtainable later. You're not allowed to use your own personal devices, whether it's your telephone, your iPad, computer, nothing. You have to do it all on government devices, which keep a record in their system.
And just so everyone is clear, if Hillary Clinton were a Republican, Tom and I would be saying the exact same thing. You see, ladies and gentlemen, what we need are one set of rules blindly applied. This begs itself to the discussion about 1,800 plus documents I understand are floating around in the possession of a vice president. No further discussion. This Hunter Biden case, I don't know what Hunter Biden, I don't understand what it takes to offend your sense of decency in this country. This isn't about politics. It's about the viability of this nation. You better learn to step away from your political agenda, your ideologies, and what you'd love to believe in, and start embracing the truth and understand it's incumbent upon you as a parent and as a United States citizen to chart a different path for our country. I want to go off, Tom, for 1 second. We just watched the House of Representatives, Speaker of the House of Representatives, McCarthy, was removed, and it was done by one United States Congressman, Matthew Gaetz. Matthews, there's an interesting expression: never let your mouth write a check your body can't cash. I hope Mr. Gaetz can cash this check that his mouth just wrote, number one. But I will say one thing to you that I spoke about in this podcast way in advance of our Congress people. When we were doing Between the Lines and even this podcast, I questioned why we commingle legislation that is earmarked for our children, our veterans, our homeless, our mentally ill. Why is it involved in bills that have something to do with farming? I'm just curious, guys. I'm not the brightest guy on the planet. Maybe there's an explanation for this, or maybe Congress is just too lazy to spend more time in Washington to single these items out and vote on them appropriately. By the way, when we're starting to talk about funding the Ukraine, that should be done independent of any other legislation. It's called pork belly spending. For those of you that may have forgotten, in 2020, when Donald Trump was still the president, we came out some legislation, the purpose of which was to address, mitigate, manage, whatever it was with the COVID virus, and contain therein, and this is a fact. Please fact check me, ladies and gentlemen. We allocated $35 million to paint the Kennedy Center. If you want to know what's wrong with your country, just listen to what we're telling you. But what we're telling you is this also: you have the ability to vote. You have the power to vote. Other countries don't have this. This country is an anomaly. Never take it for granted, which I know many of you are, because I know we're distracted with what new flat screen TV we're going to have, what generation of iPhone you're going to have, what electric car you're able to buy. We're buying into the wrong things. You're distracted. You're distracted with your children, your mortgages, your insurance payments. I got it. But you better put your thinking cap on and become part of this discussion, or you're not going to have a country to worry about any of those things. Or you may have a country where you're going to have to pick a place to live, because maybe we'll have secession. That's knocking at our door. People don't understand that. We're experiencing it today already. Staten Island, based on the fact that we're trying to relocate migrants, illegal migrants, into a private school that was closed in Staten Island, now are asking to secede from the charter of New York City. Half the landmass of Washington, D.C. wants to secede and go over to Idaho because they're more politically aligned. Pay attention. The drums are beating. Tom, I want to talk to you real quick about this topic with Walt Disney, Disney World. And supposedly there's some trouble in paradise there. And I heard somebody, I would say, give an accountability for why Disney's in trouble. What are you hearing, Tom, and what's your impressions?
Well, my impression is that what's happened to Disney is self-inflicted. This starts with the state of Florida passing the law that says that school teachers cannot approach kindergartners, first graders, second graders about sexual identity, or trying to preach to them about changing their gender or any of those type of personal items. And the Disney Corporation puts out a statement that they're putting out a bill that says, don't say gay. And you kept hearing celebrities and everybody use that phrase, don't say gay. And the bill does not even have the word gay in it. had nothing to do with gay issues. It had to do with don't sexualize little children. And that started the battle basically between the state of Florida, Governor DeSantis, and the Disney Corporation. And so Florida's way to try to give Disney some attitude adjustment was, wait, you've had special legislation giving you your own right to self-government as a company for the whole county that the Disney World is in, and they revoked it. They said, okay, we're going to take that away from you. And then right away, Disney, this battle goes back and forth between Florida and Disney, and Disney basically loses it. Then Disney combines all of that with making these movies that are completely woke, completely, almost offensive to the mainstream America, and the people aren't going to them. So their movies are going bankrupt, their company's going bankrupt, and really they started the whole thing with this by trying to be so woke and so self-righteous as a company.
Rare coin prices have exploded in the last 3 years. Hard Asset Management, one of the world's largest precious metals and rare coin dealer firms, makes recommendations on what to buy for collectors who know what they're looking for. We maintain one of the world's largest rare coin inventories for individuals seeking to diversify precious metals and rare coins. We can make strong recommendations in areas that we feel have the strongest potential for long-term growth. Call today, 844-426-4653 to receive our free rare coin newsletter, or register online at bmcham.com. Free delivery and extra silver with every $10,000 bought. Use promo code 007.
Tom, what I want to say about this issue, and I agree with you, this is self-inflicted. It was suggested that the conservatives did this. The conservatives didn't do this to Disney. Disney did it to themselves. They decided, as you cleverly pointed out, to insinuate themselves into rather socially sensitive issues. But I want to say something else to you guys. I personally know Bob Iger. I've worked for Bob Iger, the chairman and CEO of Disney now. He's a good man. He's an incredibly intelligent man and very talented. He inherited this, by the way, after he left his position as the chairman and CEO, a gentleman by the name of, his name is Chapek. Suddenly this woke mentality reared its head that I don't think they would have done that with Bob, to be candid with you, because Bob was that imposing as a leader. He was so well respected and revered, and he still is. But here would be my suggestion at this point, ladies and gentlemen, that Mr. Iger sit down with Mr. DeSantis, the governor, and start to work out their differences here, because nothing good comes of this. That's the bottom line. If we're trying to flex muscles, and the state of Florida, I suspect, will prevail, as it appears that it is, what good does it do at the end of the day? We've got to get the contention out of the culture, guys. And I want to say this to you, as I've said to you repeatedly, all of these messaging, all these messaging, whatever you're hearing, whatever you're seeing, your optic, your narrative is all coming out of the media. We need to have some oversight with the media. I know that the Democrats would like to make you believe that the Republicans are attacking the democracy, but that's actually not true. And I would say to you that don't take me on my word. Look at the issues around censorship, First Amendment, gun control, Second Amendment, due process, as I alluded to. Every time we have a cop involved in something, due process goes. We just summarily decide their guilt. Any number of these issues. That's the big lie once again. I don't know if we should rebrand the show The Big Lie or Operation Truth. This is getting to the point of being ridiculous. But I'm going to say to people this. What does it take for you to take your damn blinders off and just see what is going on in this administration? If this administration were Republican, Tom and I would be equally concerned. Make no bones about it. No one is licensed to put the future of my children or the young people in this country at risk. That's all there is to say. This administration is frightening. I think this country is in grave danger. There's an interesting statement, Tom. What do you think about me saying this country's in grave danger?
Oh, I absolutely agree. We are in extreme danger. And the problem is that the millions of people that have been allowed to come across the border under the Biden administration, they're here to stay. I know we've talked about this before, that Trump has said if he gets elected, he's going to deport them. He's going to do that. They don't have the logistical capability of deporting 5, 6, 8 million people that have come in. They just don't. It would take, let's say you have 2 officers arrest one person and take them to the airplane to fly them back to whatever country they came from. How long is it going to take to do a couple million people that way? It can't be done. So the people that have come in, the damage that has been done to our country is here to stay. Now it's a matter of how do we cope with all these people that are living in tents, that are living in our airports and in our police stations and now in our schools. We're stuck with them. They got to figure out some other way, whether it's build internment camps in the middle of Idaho somewhere or some other mechanism to get them off the streets of our cities and away from the schools and away from our children, and find some other way to try to get them to assimilate into this country, because right now it's not going to be done.
Again, Tom's spot on, and I just want to give you expand on this a little bit about how big this problem is about managing this issue. The big lie is we're vetting people coming into this country. Just simply isn't the case. We don't have the resources to vet them. What Tom is saying is we don't have the resources to deport them. We don't have the resources financially or through manpower to manage them here and accommodate them. You know, this lends itself to the big lie, because if you listen to this administration, you know, we seem to have come off with this idea that we have this ability to do this without it being at the expense of the taxpayers. I just ask you, listen to this man, Eric Adams in New York. Believe me, he's as Democrat as you can get. I know of his history in the police department. He retired as a captain. This guy's not a friend to the conservative element or Republicans. Neither am I, by the way. I'm a friend to the truth, just like Tom is and everybody associated with this podcast. But we are creating a scenario that if you go back a few minutes in my conversation, it's going to overwhelm this country. We're going to have people that when they can't make gainful employment are going to engage in crime. Guys, I remind you of this little analogy I make. It's a formula. The lack of education equals unemployment. Unemployment equals crime. It's that simple. That's what's going on right now. The crime stats in New York City, and I guarantee you in other jurisdictions that are being spoken to currently in cities like Chicago, are through the roof with the migrants. We don't know who we let in. And I don't know how any of you as Americans can be so cavalier and not concerned. This is the future of your kids. It's not going to touch me or Tom. We're getting out of this alive. We have every mechanism in place to survive this. Our young people are screwed. There's no nice way to say it. I can't listen to people on shows like The View or MSNBC or Fox or any of them spew this crap that divides us, pits us against each other, and polarizes this nation. We can't get a straight, truthful answer out of anybody in this culture today, including the government. This is one big lie. Joe Biden is incompetent. He always has been. I hate to be critical of this guy because it's not my nature. But if anybody knows and understands him as they do in that political arena, he was mediocre as an elected official at best. He's never been a dynamic thinker or leader. You know what? Let's make him the president. Great idea. Look at what you've inherited. This guy can't put a sentence together today. He shut down your Keystone Pipeline the first day in office. What did that translate to? $2 plus gasoline. California up to $7 a gallon. Guys, step away from this political filter, this political lens you look through in deciding or determining who you love and who you don't, and start to embrace the goddamn truth, because that's what's going to get you through this. That's what's going to carve out a new path for the future of your children. I don't know what to say, guys. When the elections come around in 2024, look at how you've been living the past 3.5 years and vote for it again. And I guarantee you this, in 4 years from there, we will not have a country. Remember, I said this to you. I'm worried about what condition this country is going to be in a year from now, to be very candid with you. And I say this again to you in case you're questioning me. I would say the same thing if these were Republicans. Something is wrong here. Your borders, your major cities, your foreign policies, your economy, this lie in the energy sector, the cost of gasoline. We can't afford to buy houses now. Whose administration is this? And you listen to this bold-faced lunatic called the president stand up there and lie to your face how people are experiencing this prosperity. What planet is he living on? That's like listening to Gavin Newsom say that corporations come to California to prosper. They're leaving in record number. What are you talking about? You had 21 business entities leave San Francisco. Oh, no, Gavin. We're energy independent. Guys, I don't care if he's a Republican or a Democrat. I don't want anybody around me that's incapable of telling us the truth and leading us through this darkness. Tom, I'm sure you have an opinion about what I just said. Am I wrong?
Absolutely. You're talking about Gavin Newsom. Here's a guy who takes over one of the most beautiful cities in the world, San Francisco, and drives it into the ground. And I worked as an assistant agent in charge in San Francisco in the mid 90s for 3 years. One of the most beautiful cities I've ever been in the world. And I've been to more than 90 countries. So then it's not enough to ruin San Francisco. Let's run for governor and try to make this a statewide issue. And so now he's driven California into the ground with the businesses and taxpayers and productive people trying to leave if they can. And then now he's being considered a front runner to be a Democratic candidate for president after Biden. If Biden either retires, resigns, or doesn't get renominated to run again, and they're talking about Gavin Newsom. And you hear people saying, well, he'll be the front runner. He'll be a formidable candidate. Now, you know, like the notable television show, The View, watching a clip on YouTube from The View about a month ago, one of their esteemed hosts on that show said, oh, I'm going to vote for Gavin Newsom because he's so pretty. That's the kind of mentality we have. So when you talk about like Biden right now, that he's got 30% support or 40%, who are the 30 or 40% of the people in this country that think he's doing a good job as president at all? They should have their head examined. And now they're talking about that's not enough that we've had 3 years and going to have 4 years of Biden probably. Let's bring in Gavin Newsom. He's ruined a city, then a state. Let's give him the whole country to play with.
You know, Tom, what's so sad about the president is that there's a lack of morality sitting in the democratically run Senate that they can't, for the sake of the future of this country, do the right thing. These are bottom feeders. I have no trust and or belief that they have the ability to do what is correct. I don't care about your politics, guys. The truth doesn't, change because you're a Democrat or you're a Republican. This, what we're living today, is a disaster. Even the Democrats are starting to come to terms with it, guys. But what are we going to have to do? Lose the country in its totality, in its entirety? I have a really vague, open-ended question for you guys. How many more millions of people who are coming into this country illegally are going to be allowed to continue to come in? I'm just curious. We've overpopulated the country. Tom doesn't believe that. He thinks we're just not managing it right. I'm saying we're overpopulated because I don't think the ability to manage it is there. When things get too big, guys, exponentially become more difficult to manage. It's just part of this progression in life. We're going to have to go at this point. We've run our time on this show. There's more to talk about. I'm going to come right back for the next episode. I'm going to continue to discuss this issue at the borders, our major cities, what's going on with this government. When Joe Biden was elected president, he had my support. That's all I want to say to you. I hoped he had a successful administration because that would translate to a successful experience for my country, period. That's not what's happening, guys. You can lie to yourself all day long. Here's one thing I want to say to you in closing today about what's coming our way, which is a little disturbing. We're going to have Biden and Trump. Biden's running the country into the ground. You can argue with me all day long. Just listen to your own people, the Democrats. I got it with Donald Trump. He hurt your feelings. Look at the condition of this country when Trump was the president versus the condition of this country now that this man's in office. And I'm not telling you to vote for Donald Trump, period. I'd like to see some young blood in here and some people that know how to communicate with each other without insulting each other, or better yet, without just goddamn lying every 5 minutes to our face, because the country's becoming this big lie and we're living it. And you know what? Don't feel helpless, guys. Get out, get off your rear ends and go vote. But when you vote, don't vote by a party. Vote by what's right or wrong. Vote by the truth. Vote by what you think is going to embrace the future of your children. Guys, we're going to cut it for today. Tom, we're going to come right back for another episode. Just stick with us, guys. This is Operation Truth. You can communicate with us through operationtruthofficial@gmail.com. I'd like to hear from you guys. I'd like to hear you ask us some questions. We'll give you the answers to these problems also. I can tell you how to fix the border. I can tell you how to address the crime in the city, how to address the energy sector. This isn't brain surgery, guys. You just have to get in the real world with me. And we're going to continue this conversation in the next episode. Thank you for joining us today. Tom, thank you as always for being mi amigo, and we'll see you next time.